All right, hey, what's up, guys? So in this video, I'm going to replace the head gaskets on my Yamaha 175 two-stroke. And I've been having some issues with the engine misfiring. So what I've done so far, since I've gotten to this point, is I replaced this fuel filter here. I've also replaced the two fuel pumps here and here. And still getting some misfiring. I've also used the seafoam engine treatment. Took about a 1 gallon gas can, had high octane gas in it, filled it up with a bottle of the seafoam engine maintenance, or the engine treatment bottle, and ran that through, and it did a little bit of improvement in terms of how the engine sounds when it's running, but it did not correct the misfire. So I'm led to believe that the head gasket, as you can see here, this does not look like it's in the greatest condition. So I think the head gaskets need to be replaced, and that's what's causing the misfiring, letting some water in through the cooling system into one or two of the cylinders, causing it to misfire. So I'm going to take this process and show you how to do it. All right, so you can see the first thing I did is removed the boots from the spark plugs. This way it doesn't start any kind of fire or electrical hazard or anything like that. So make sure you disconnect everything. Turn your battery off, just be safe. Disconnect your spark plugs. And then I started backing out the main bolts that go into the block that hold the head cover in place. So they're all coming out. And then I'll get to the next step momentarily. All right, so I got the one side off, the one head off, and you can see here, this gasket looks like it's in pretty rough shape. Looks like cylinder number 2. We had some kind of some leak. You can see by the heads. There's definitely typical two-stroke piston head. We got some incomplete combustion there, but all in all, it was pretty easy to get off. This one felt a little loose, so I think this side's definitely causing the misfire. I think some of the water's definitely getting into some of these cylinders. So we're going to take the other side off and take a look and compare. All right, so I got this side off, and when I compare the two, you can definitely see this side, number 1, has got a bunch of sand and sediment deposits around the gasket. It was much easier to take off. It literally just slid right off pretty much without having to be pried open. The inside of this cooling wall definitely had some water coming out of it. Looks like some water was in this bottom cylinder here. So this cylinder may be the culprit. And if you just look at the condition around it, it definitely looks like some water was leaking in, penetrating through the gasket and getting into that bottom cylinder. The one thing I did notice, which is a little concerning, is the moisture in these cooling walls appear to be a little wetter than the moisture in these walls. This one looks bone dry. So I'm a little concerned that this side is not getting the proper water flow that it should be getting for cooling purposes. So we're gonna have to take a look at that as well. But I definitely think that this side is the culprit. And one thing I noticed is, as I was taking these bolts out, you could tell by looking at the deposits left in those bolt holes that some of them were cruddier than the others. So like this one down here had it. All right, so you can see I got the gasket off. Used the scraper and then sanded it down a little bit as good as I could to make it nice and clean. Sprayed a little bit with some brake cleaner just to get some of the dust and sediments out. Let it dry, obviously, before you put the gasket back on. But it looks pretty clean now. We got a little bit here maybe that needs to come back off a little bit, but all in all, it looks pretty clean. So now we're just waiting for the head gaskets to go back on, and we will tighten her up and see if we still have some misfiring going on. All right, so you can see I got the cylinder cover off, scraped it up, took the gasket off, cleaned it up around the edges, and then used some brake clean to get those spots really cleaned up. Still looks a little dirty in some areas. Going to work on it a little bit more, but all in all, that's pretty good. So now we're going to move on to the next one, and then get these new head gaskets back in place. All right, so both head covers are cleaned up and sanded down, scraped off, sprayed a little brake clean on there to clean everything up. Everything looks nice and clean, ready for fresh contact with the new gasket. All right, so we got that new gasket on, the new head gasket here. You see it all the way up and down. Got both covers back on. We're gonna crank them down, torque them to the right specifications, which is 0.8 kilograms. I'm sorry, 30 kilograms right here. That's what we'll torque it down to. And we're gonna fire up and see if we still got a sputter. Should be good though, just based on what we found with the gasket, how it looked, what we found on the inside of the cylinder walls, and how easily they came off. So take a peek, see how it goes.